Hello and welcome to the Other Kind of Doctor podcast. My name is Gemma.
And my name is Gaia, and we are both on the journey of gaining a PhD.
A quick disclaimer before we start. We are in fact the academic kind of doctors.
Well, nearly doctors.
Yes, nearly doctors. But we're not your medical kind of doctors.
So if you do need medical attention, please contact your GP.
Now, let's get on with the episode. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, Guy, you sound weird today.
I've got a terrible cold. Really bad cold.
You almost sound like our sound technician, Ryan.
It's funny, viruses will do strange things to you.
Very strange things.
They really will. Yeah.
So Ryan is here today, our lovely sound technician and website manager, because Gaia is really poorly.
Yeah.
If you listened to last week's episode, Gaia said that she was feeling a little bit under the weather, and now she's probably got the plague.
It's really bad.
Yeah. So we've got Ryan with us today, who is subbing in.
I am here.
Very last minute, in fact.
I'm not as good as Gaia. I'm a bit slow, but I'll try to keep up.
Try and keep up with our bants we have on this podcast.
I will try.
So we usually start off by saying a bit about our weeks.
Okay.
So what have you been up to this week, Ryan?
I participated in a study today.
Did you?
I did. They asked me to try and pay attention to my heartbeat.
Ooh.
And I realised I cannot do that. I just can't feel my heartbeat without taking my pulse.
Oh, really?
And also, it freaks me out. So there you go.
Well, you've learned something about Ryan today, guys.
I don't like my own heartbeat.
That could be a problem.
I think it must be connected to... Oh, Sam Fairland would love this.
Yeah.
Fear of death, maybe.
Yeah.
Mortality.
Ooh. Maybe you should get in touch with Dr. Sam Fairland, who does lots of research about this. A bit about my week. What have I been up to? Oh, today I was on a panel.
Oh.
A PhD Q&A panel for undergrads. And they were quizzing us about what it's like to do a PhD and funding and all sorts. And I did plug the podcast as well.
Nice.
Did a little presentation and was like, go and check out my podcast, Mine and Guy's podcast, which was really exciting. Anyway, enough about us, Ryan.
Yes.
This week we are talking about doing a study visit during your PhD.
It's really good.
It's
a really good interview.
Yeah, we've just finished our interview with Pip Brown, who is a PhD student at the University of Warwick. Pip is very versed on study visits because they have been on two in their PhD so far, one in New Zealand and one currently at Royal Holloway.
Which is obviously more exciting. Yeah. Royal Holloway or New Zealand. Egham, every time.
Egham in Surrey or New Zealand. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with the episode.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, who's this? Sounds like we've got another guest in this week. So today we're really lucky to be joined by Pip Brown, who is a PhD or visiting PhD student to Royal Holloway. And I wondered if you could tell us a bit about you, Pip. What is your PhD in? What have you been up to so far?
So my PhD, I'm in developmental psychology, and I work mainly on sort of the realm of teenagers and misinformation. So I look at how they make decisions about what to trust online, what goes into that decision, how they develop what we might call epistemic vigilance towards information online. I'm in my third year.
Scary.
Right, yeah, very scary. Right smack bang in the middle of analysis for my second study and all sorts of exciting stuff like that. And I'm here at Royal Holloway to collaborate on my third study with Dr. Beatrice Hayes. So we'll be doing some of that online information work in the context of students and how students work out who to trust, and looking at the phenomenon of you telling students information and then going into like their secret little WhatsApp groups and coming up with which is something that makes all lecturers roll their eyes when I talk to them about it. So we're going to have a little look at that and see if they trust their peers more than lecturers.
What do you think? Do you think they trust us as lecturers?
I've seen some real egregious examples of people spreading just crazy misinformation on the WhatsApp groups. So we had in my undergrad a whole big scandal where people had convinced themselves that you get 10% either way in terms of the word count.
Oh, I've heard
Yeah.
that as well from students.
Yeah, because that is the case in some other degrees. And so loads of people just like fell foul of that. And there are lots of other kind of families of misconceptions that you can see when you're marking, where you think that's obviously come from somewhere. And so lots of people being like, oh, my older sibling did this, or I have a friend in sociology who does this, and forgetting that they can go on Moodle and the answer will be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good question. Do they trust us? I don't know, Gemma. Would you trust me?
Always.
Okay. Yeah, I think what Pip said rings true. I suppose why they don't go to Moodle? Maybe that's a question for Moodle. And designing good Moodle pages.
Yes.
That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, but we won't go there yet.
Yeah.
No, that's another
Yeah.
day.
Well, it's interesting. It kind of relates to what some of Beatrice's work on online self-disclosure and how difficult students find it to interact with lecturers. So they would rather go to that WhatsApp group than email a lecturer for fear that somebody's going to say that's a stupid question. It's the same thing with people putting their hands up in seminars and stuff.
That's a really good point. So we've brought you here today because you are currently on a study visit,
I am, indeed.
like we've just said.
Yeah.
And we kind of wanted to talk about doing study visits during your PhD. I've heard lots of people say how fun they are and how useful they are in building your CV and just your general academic knowledge and in skills. I wonder if you could explain what your study visits have been like and what do you actually do on a study visit? Because I feel like not many people might know that.
What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, for my first study visit, I mainly
'cause
did...
you've been on two,
I've
haven't
been on
you?
two. First, I mainly did singing, actually. I didn't do a lot of research. But so I've been on an overseas institutional visit. So I spent 3 months in the University of Auckland in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I was working in a music lab out there. And I was sort of there essentially to help out with kind of data collection and to learn all I could about the work that lab did. My ulterior motive there was really also, could I thrive as an academic in this place?
Okay.
This institutional visit has been one that's been brewing since me and Beatrice met all those many moons ago, and I met you, Gemma, for the first time.
Quite, was it, 3?
Yeah. And it was one of those like instant friendships. So we're like, oh, well, we're going to have to work together. Like, it's fate. And so we have just about managed, all of the stars have aligned, and we have managed to come up with a paper that kind of neatly fits our two research areas. So it's good for kind of learning new research skills. I would say also a large chunk of it is about developing your network and experiencing a new institution. You can very easily convince yourself that the university you work at, that is what it's like everywhere, and it's not true. And I've experienced many different ways of working now, and I have much more of a idea about the kind of workplace I would thrive in. So that's really important for your kind of self-development as well, I suppose.
Did you find that the New Zealand kind of culture and academic culture was different?
Yeah, I did. Kiwi culture in general, I suppose, is I mean, the stereotype is that it's more laid back. I did find in my day-to-day life, yes, it was more laid back. I particularly enjoyed I could go to a supermarket and not wear shoes. That suits me.
Really?
Yeah, you're making such a face. But I think the culture-wise, the biggest difference, I suppose, I found was the kind of biculturality of the Pākehā, so the European New Zealander, and the Māori culture as well, because the university system is nominally at least designed to kind of uphold those two points of view and those two ways of teaching. Okay. So I spent quite a lot of time actually at the university next door, AUT, and interacting with some academics from there, from one of the departments that was kind of tasked with like Māori pedagogy, Indigenous pedagogy and advancement and culture. So to give you a kind of little example, sometimes there you would find that a big meeting would start with a song. It would start with a waiata.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because culturally you're kind of obliged to follow up something of import with a song. basically say, either like I understand this, I support this statement, or to start to get everyone in the best headspace to signal everyone's kind of good intentions. You would not find this in this country. I think that's a shame. So I found actually that the kind of way of doing things out there chimed much more with my sense of like what was important for education.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like that study visit was really important for you.
Sounds like you had a wonderful time.
Yeah,
Would you go back?
Oh yeah. I didn't really want to leave, but I have my PhD to finish off. That
old thing,
the old chestnut. But yeah, I'm kind of keeping half an eye on jobs out there. Obviously, it's a smaller place, but I did feel really like I could make a home there.
And now you've got those networks, right? Haven't you?
Yeah.
So if there was like any postdoctoral opportunities out there, you've got that kind of thing as well.
I feel like I should ask for Gaia. Were there big spiders?
Do you know there are not big spiders? There are 2 deadly spiders. Well, not deadly. There are 2 scary spiders.
No.
So there's the white tail and the red back. I think I've got those right. And no venomous snakes apart from some sea snakes that wash up from Australia. So in terms of things that can kill you, they are doing way better than Australia.
Good to know.
But they do have this insect called the weta, which is, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 inches long. Looks like a really, really like hefty sort of stick insect cricket type thing.
Ooh.
It's very cool, but like you don't want to step on one because it's quite crunchy.
Okay,
That's
nice.
good. That's
good to know for any listeners
Yeah.
off to New Zealand.
And I suppose an important question that lots of people might like to know the answer to is, how did you get the funding for this?
So I am funded by the ESRC, so Economic Social Research Council, and they set aside a pot of money to go on a 3-month overseas institutional visit. And this visit that I'm on right now to Royal Holloway is basically just part of my PhD. So it tends to be, and your mileage may vary depending on who you're funded by, but they tend to fund visits that will not directly contribute to your thesis, because otherwise that would be field work and that comes out of its own separate kind of funding pot. So what I did in Auckland was quite separate to my thesis because I was working on music cognition in infants. And I kind of pitched it in terms of, actually, this is very important for my academic and social development. So as a developmental psychologist, I hadn't done any infant work. I was really wanting to do that. I was wanting to explore professional contacts as well. So your institutional visit can also be a way of saying, okay, I'm going to mop up all of the stuff that my PhD doesn't necessarily provide me, because we are so specialised. But that's not like how our brains really work. I know everyone has that one thing that they want to explore,
This is true.
That's quite interesting. And was the application process quite competitive for that, or was it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it was absolutely fine, really. So it kind of came down to contacting the PI from the lab, who was lovely and said, come on over, we'll find something for you to do. and really, quite often the money is there, and lots of PhD students don't take advantage of it.
Okay.
But it's well worth doing because you get the stipend extension on the end usually. So it gives you a bit of breathing space as well, because obviously you don't do any work on your PhD while you're out there, but that will still be kind of percolating away, and it kind of influenced, I suppose, my approach to my PhD, and particularly my approach to teaching after I came back. So it does then, in a roundabout way, have an impact on your thesis.
So off the back of that, you said that you emailed someone in that lab. Did you email a variety of labs? Did you know you wanted to go to that one? And kind of how do you approach labs? Because it's a bit scary sending an email to a big, important professor.
Yeah. It's nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking. I mean, 3 years ago, I would have found that really nerve-wracking as an undergraduate. One of the nice things about getting older as a PhD student is you kind of think, oh, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? They will ignore your email.
Ghost you.
It's very rare that they'll email back and say, you dare approach me in my mighty lab kind of thing.
I would love any listeners that's had that response from a PI. Please let us know, because that would actually be hilarious.
Yeah, so I contacted a lab in Wellington who I could see were doing baby lab work, and they said, "Oh, well, we've not got anything really going on, but the music lab is happening in Auckland." And then I approached Sam and realised actually that I had been a participant in what they do, lots of kind of global citizen science stuff, and I realised that I had been a participant in some of that research quite a while back, which was quite funny, and literally just pinged off an email. And that has always been my approach, is just to be quite optimistic, to hope for the best, be friendly, be personable, and the worst that can happen is that they say no, and I've kind of always been quite happy just to contact other people and say, look, I really admire your research, or it would be really good to talk, or whatever, which I didn't realise when I first started is actually what networking is. Networking seems like this really weird artificial thing where you're going and you're kind of, it's almost a bit like pick-up artistry in a way, and then I realised, actually it's just being nice and talking to people.
Yeah.
It's definitely a skill.
Yeah.
I'm still getting used to it.
Yeah.
The thought of going up to people in conferences makes my skin crawl. I love, once that conversation gets going and you're just talking about your research and you're talking about these things, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just that, especially if you don't know anyone, making that first step to be like, hello, I'm a PhD student. Please ask me some questions. Can I ask you some questions? But I think you're right. Don't think of it as like an artificial thing. Just be,
just be yourself. And then my top tip, conference-wise, would be actually wear something really distinctive, like a really distinctive shirt.
Shirt you're wearing
the shirt I'm wearing at the moment.
It's a wonderful shirt.
It is green with big flowers on it.
It's great, and that means that people will come up to you and say, I really like your shirt, and that is a conversation starter. Provide people with conversation starters.
I've got to think of something in my wardrobe that I can wear to my next conference then.
I really hope this spreads, and the next conference we go to, everyone looks incredible. Just bright colours everywhere.
I love that.
So you mentioned that you can take a year out and then it kind of gets added on to the stipend at the end.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about the flow. When you're in your PhD and you've got the project flowing, how do you hold on to that flow whilst going away for a year?
It is tricky because it took a good month of adjustment when I came back from New Zealand in particular, because you'd kind of gone from thinking how I could build a life out here, and then you're going back to the UK and you land with a bit of a bump. But for me, I was in a good position because I had more or less finished my study one. I had done my first draft of my introduction as well. I could park it there.
Nice.
And then come back to the second stage, my PhD, in the autumn. So it actually bookended the end of my second year, I think. I get very confused now. I think
all the timelines just merge into one when you're doing a PhD. It's just this one long thing.
Absolutely. So for me, it kind of enabled me to have a really good breathing space. But that is something to think about, because you can do an institutional visit too early, I think, in your PhD, or too late. I think that, second half of second year is quite useful, because it allows you to kind of really take stock, and then if you want to radically change anything, you've still got time, and also gives you the mental breathing space to be like, I'm kind of sick of my subject at the moment. I need to spend some time doing something completely different, and then you can come back to it and think, I feel fresh energy for this, even if that energy is only, I've got another year of this and then I can go back to New Zealand. Not that that's the case for me. I love my subject.
Sure.
You already booked the tickets.
I love that. So I wondered, you've obviously had a really good experience, and that's really great, but I wondered if there were any challenges that you experienced either during the study visits or in terms of the application process. Obviously, you said your work with Beatrice was like a really long thing. Was that a big challenge?
Yeah, it was mainly the ethics application that was a big challenge with that. It was pretty smooth in terms of we we kind of vibe on the same level. So the actual process of coming up with a study was quite straightforward. It was the getting the ethics application together in time to be in the right place in the year to recruit students. That's always a thing with developmental psychology. For my first study visit, the most challenging thing, obviously I was on my own on the other side of the planet. Getting accommodation sorted was kind of quite challenging because there's all sorts of red tape and stuff you've got to go through. The one thing I felt was that, you know, you upend your life and you have to fit in with a lab that is sometimes a really different environment for you. I was used to being on my own, working on my own projects. I've done that really since undergraduate, and I've obviously have like fantastic supervision team, but it wasn't really the team lab that I experienced in New Zealand, where we were kind of on Slack all of the time, and it ran much more like a tiny business.
Okay.
And that was a real learning curve for me. And so initially I felt kind of, oh dear, I've come here, what can I offer this lab? Because I'm coming in the middle of all of this work that's going on. And eventually I found my role, and my role was kind of helping out in kind of practical ways and using my skill set as someone who recruits participants. Yeah, but initially I felt that was really difficult, but I knew for me what always helps is music. So I decided, okay, well, I am going to join 1 choir, 2 choir, 3 choirs. They stack up, and make an effort to learn a little bit of the language and to learn some Māori songs, and to join a choir that was at the marae of the university next door. And that ended up in some ways being much more important than the academic side of it.
Yeah.
And certainly informed my attitude to teaching when I came back, and attitude to music making in general. So I would say go out there, know what it is that you need to feel safe and comfortable, try and recreate that wherever you are, and have the knowledge that it's kind of 3 months, and then you will be kind of back in the swing of things. So make the most of it, but don't be disheartened if you're homesick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really important.
Yeah, excellent advice. Thank you. I couldn't agree more that like moving to a new place can be incredibly daunting, and it takes a bit of time to settle in.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question which you kind of already answered, but I think it's still, I wanted to maybe focus on it. Can you think of a time in a PhD when it would not be a good idea to go on to do?
Beginning of year 1, I think. Okay. I think hold that year of reading and faffing sacrosanct, because it doesn't feel like it at the time, but it is really important.
Yeah.
It kind of, it allows you to brew stuff that will only become apparent to you later on. I would say it's difficult. I mean, I would maybe avoid doing it in the midst of writing up, because it could really disrupt your flow.
Yeah.
Lots of funding bodies have rules about which year you can do it in anyway, but also you kind of also perhaps got to give it a chance to inform some of your attitude to your thesis. If you do it too late, then you can think, oh God, like this institutional visit has shown me that actually my priorities are X, Y, Z. What do? I haven't got time. If it's nothing at all to do with your thesis, that's less of a problem. And I was doing work on lullabies as a health intervention for newborn babies, which was very, very sweet.
That's lovely.
So we like to finish off all of our episodes with our guests by thinking about what your top tips for a PhD student that wants to do a study visit.
Ooh. I would say, because my top tip for a PhD student is always think of this as an apprenticeship in research methods. Hold on to that, apply that in your study visit as well. If you find actually you are not meshing with the place that you're working, or you're struggling in any way, you can think, okay, well, this is a kind of apprenticeship in working with different labs. Because even if you are having a tricky time, that shows you, okay, well, what I need in the future is X, Y, Z. So my top tip would be think about what the study visit could give you in the future post PhD. Maybe as much as you're thinking, how is this going to contribute to my PhD? And this is maybe 3 top tips, actually.
We love all the top tips.
It's also, if you have a research area that you feel that you've sort of slightly neglected in your PhD, like my other prong of interest is music cognition, this is a great opportunity to actually say, you know what, it makes me better as an academic to have these interests. It might not seem that it's connected to my PhD thesis, but it is all connected because it's all about how I learn to be a better researcher and a better teacher.
Oh, fantastic.
It's really exciting.
Really good top tips.
Thank you.
It makes me want to go on.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know. I'm getting ready to send a little email to a PI now. Be brave.
Yes.
So I suppose before we say goodbye, where can we find you online?
Oh,
Are you on Twitter?
Are you on Twitter?
I was on Twitter. I'm now. You can probably find me on Twitter because I can't get into my own account to delete it. So you can find my ghost Twitter at something like at Snap, Crackle and Pip.
Oh, okay.
Just drifting out there.
Yeah. Just drifting on the ether. I have a LinkedIn, but I don't check it. Do you know what? Just email me.
Okay.
It's pip.brown@warwick.ac.uk.
There we go.
Thank you,
Send
Pip.
Pip an email if you want to chat a little bit more. That's all we've got time for today, but it was so lovely having you on, Pip, and I think you've given some really excellent advice that
Really
we can
excellent.
take away to all go on study visits and make the most of this PhD journey that we're all on. And
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Brain bites. Oh, it sounds weird without Gaia.
Sorry.
Her little Italian accent.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Let the team down. Brain but no.
No, you're not going to be able to go that high.
No.
So I thought when I was thinking about brain bites this week that Gaia's not very well
This is true.
and we need to give her a bit of a shout out. So I thought we could think about research that might link being sick and taking time off, but also feeling guilty about taking time off because you're sick.
Oh wow. Does that make you more sick?
Probably, yeah.
Ooh.
Because I was speaking to Gaia and she's actually messaged me to say she's still working on her code, she's still trying to work. And I was like, honey,
Break.
stop it.
Yeah.
Will
Need
she
a
listen
rest.
to me? Probably not.
No.
So I'm trying to find some research that proves her wrong. And Ryan, what did the research find?
So the research found Dr. Cynthia Zellis commented that based on their study, people like Gaia and students, PhD students working from home, working remotely, they actually have a greater sense of guilt for taking sick days than someone who would work in the office.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Dr. Zellis elaborates on this by explaining that this might be because PhD students or anyone who works remotely, they don't need to worry about taking a day off because they might make someone else sick because
Right.
they're just working from home, right?
Yep.
But this might make them feel that being ill isn't a good enough reason to take a day off because you don't have that motivation. Oh, I don't want to go in to make someone else sick.
Yeah.
I'll just carry on working a little bit at home even though I feel ill. That means they're more likely to feel guilty if they do just take the whole day off.
That does make sense.
Does make sense. So basically, Gaia, stop working and go and have a nap or something.
There you go. Please go. Have a nap.
Have a nap.
The research says have a nap.
Yes, literally. So that's it for today, guys. And I want to say a big thank you to Ryan for stepping in for Gaia.
I tried my best.
Maybe we'll just scrap Gaia and keep you on every week.
There would be riots in the street.
A lot of a little old Italian people would come and riot at our doors. I'm sure.
Many more would kick me out.
So don't forget to subscribe and review the Other Kind of Doctor podcast. Really means a lot to us. Don't forget to check out our social media, which is at otherdoctor_pod, as well as our website, which has all of our transcriptions and lots of other news behind the scenes, any vacancies we have as well. You can apply on there. I want to have a big thank you to the Doctoral School and our amazing podcast team for all of the work that they do.
Thank you, team.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.